Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 9. Our members are me, Afifah Felian Putri, Hilya Salasata Nurpalica, Kolivia, Intan Nur Inayah, and Fiska Nur Wulandari. Now, we want to present our material. It is material design. Material design is one of the most characteristic features of ESP in learning. A lot of time spent by ESP teacher to write material design. Why? There are a number of reasons for this. The first, a teacher or institution may wish to provide teaching materials that will fit a specific subject area or particular kind of learners. The second, materials may not be available commercially. Many materials are personal and not traded. That's why the teacher must make the material design by himself or by herself. The third, even if there is material that available commercially, the teachers may not be possible to buy it because of the currency or import restriction. And the fourth, ESP material design also can be written for non-educational purpose, for example, sponsorship or school reputation. In general, material designs are written by teachers or particular institution for the students in that particular institution. Writing material design sometimes called as an abuse for the teacher, but in the process of making it may help the teachers to become more aware of what involved in teaching and learning. Next, we will explain techniques for producing ESP materials. The first to do is defining objective. In defining their purpose, there are some of principles to guide us in writing materials. The first is materials provide stimulus for learning. We can use interesting text, enjoyable activities, and of course, opportunity to use their knowledge or skill. The second, material help to organize the teaching learning process. Model must be clear and systematic, but flexible enough to allow creativity and variety. The third is material embody a view of the nature of language and learning. It should reflect what you think and feel about the learning process. The fourth, materials reflect the nature of learning tasks. It should create a balanced outlook which both reflect the complexity yet manageable task. The fifth, materials can have a useful function in broadening the basis of teacher training. And the sixth is materials provide models of correct and appropriate language use. It should not be the kind of beginner guide.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Kolivia. I would like to explain about material design model. The aim of this particular model is to provide a coherent framework for the integration of the various aspects of learning, while at the same time allowing enough room for creativity and variety of flourish. The model consists of four elements that are input, content focus, language focus, and text. The first is input. This may be a dialogue, video recording, diagram, or any piece of communication data, depending on the needs you have defined your analysis. The input provides a number of things. There are stimulus material for activities, new language item, correct model of language use, a topic for communication, opportunities for learner to use their information processing skills, and the last is opportunity for learner to use their existing knowledge both of the language and the subject matter. The second is content focus. Language is not an end in itself, but a means of conveying information and feeling about something. Non-linguistic content should be exploited to generate meaningful communication in the classroom. The next is language focus. Our aim is to enable learner to use language, but it is unfair to give learner communicative tasks and activities for which they do not have enough for the necessary language knowledge. In language focus, learners have to change to take the language to pieces, study how it works, and practice putting it back together again. And the last is text. Text is the ultimate purpose of language learning use. Material should be designed, therefore, to lead towards a communicative text in which learners use the content and language knowledge they have built up through the unit. So, let's see at the table. From the table, we can conclude that the primary focus of the unit is the text. The model acts as a vehicle which leads the learners to the point where they are able to carry out the text. The language and content are drawn from the input and are selected according to what learner will need in the order to do the text. So that's all from me. The next slide will be explained by Naya.
Language is a broad group and area content. The topic represents a common form of technical discourse describing a circulatory system, although in this case, represent from a unusual point of view. The starter plays a number of important roles. It creates a context of knowledge for the comprehension of the input. The comprehension in ESP classroom is often more difficult than in real life because texts are taken isolation. In the outside world, a text would normally appear in a context which provides reference point to assess understanding. And it activates the learner's mind and gets them thinking. It arouses the learner's interest in the topic. It reveals what learners already know. This section practice extracting information from the input begins the process of relating the content and language to wider context. Learners should always be encouraged to find answers for themselves possible. For the example, learners are required to go beyond the information in the input. They have to relate the subject matter to their own knowledge and reasoning powers, but still using the language they have been learning. Language focus, this section provides exercise in some of the language elements needed for the test. This might relate to aspects of sentence structure, function, or text construction. Focus points are taken from the input, but they are chosen according to their use for the test. Here, the learners have to create their own solution to a communication problem. In so doing, they use both the language and the content knowledge developed through the unit. The learners, in effect, are being asked to solve a problem using English rather than to the exercise about English.
Refining the model, a number of possible refinements to the model can be seen in the unit above. We can relate this point to the nucleus of the model to refer an extant model like that picture. Material and the syllabus. A model must be able to ensure adequate coverage through the syllabus of all the pictures identified as playing a role in development of the learning. In addition to having an internal coherence, therefore, each unit must also relate effectively to the other unit in the course. There needs to be coherence between the unit structure and the syllabus structure to ensure that the course provides adequate and appropriate coverage of the syllabus items. At this point, it is useful to make a cautionary distinction between two types of model. Sign both are used in the material design process. Predictive and evaluative. Predictive, this kind of the model provides the generative framework within which creativity can operate. The unit model, you can see that picture, is of this kind. It is a model that enables the operator to select, organize, and present data. And then evaluative. This kind of model acts as feedback device to tell you whether you have done what you intend. The syllabus are interface model. That picture, it is of this kind. Typically, is use it as a checklist. You can see that picture illustrated in simply form how the unit models relates to the various syllabus unveiling of the course design. Note, however, that identifying feature of this model syllabus picture doesn't mean that they only play a role in that position, nor that other factors are not included in that position. The diagram aims to show the main focus of each element in the material. If the model are used inappropriately, the material writer will almost certainly be so swamped with factors to consider that they will probably achieve little effort.
So in this part, I would like to explain about using the model case of study. So in this case of study, if we start to feel unsatisfied with the models that we've been used, or think that the models we have is not fit anymore to our learner, we can make a revision by uh, looking for some guideline first. So there are several guidelines that we can use for revise our models. First is find your text. We can find a text that might fit to our learner, but before we find our text, there are three criteria that we have to take a look before selecting our text. First is it should be a naturally occurring a piece of communication, or a piece that might well have occurred naturally. Two is it should be suited to the learner's needs and interests. Three is it should be capable of generating useful classroom activity. Step 2 is go to the end of the model. Think of a task that the learners could do in the end of the unit. And our concern here was to assess the creative potential of the text for the classroom activities. 3. Go back to the syllabus. Is the task the kind of activity that will benefit your learner? 4. Decide what language structure, vocabulary, function, content the input contains. 5. Think of some exercises and activities to practice the items you have identified. 6. Go back to the input. Can it be revised in any way to make it more useful? Try out any revision on your learners if it's possible. If there is no revision needed, you can put in the cold storage and look for another text. 7. Go through stage 1 until 6 again with the revised input. 8. Check the new materials against the syllabus and amend accordingly. 9. Try the material in the classroom. Actually, there is no such thing as a perfect material because it still can be improved. 10. Most importantly, revise the materials in the light of classroom use.